You are traveling through another dimension. A dimension of confusion, banality, and shattered expectations. A journey awarded to you by a small red pill. Your next stop, the MGTOW Zone.
Now that I have the attention of all the Canadians out there, listen up. Try to open your ears and minimize your credulity. I recently came across a semi-viral position put forth by Canadians and plastered all over social media. The proposition of this position stated this: that missing and murdered Aboriginal women in Canada is a serious issue, and it must be addressed. So much so that I saw many of my female Canadian friends jumping on this wagon and voicing its platform. So what was the tipping point to bring this issue in front of the masses through social media and the internet? Well, in my searches, I found this article, which seemed to put it all together. According to the National Post, the headline states this: pregnant student studying cases of murdered and missing Aboriginal women disappears in Halifax. Now I'll quote the first paragraph. Loretta Sanders is an Inuit woman and criminology student studying incidents of murdered and missing Aboriginal women in Canada. So, when her family suddenly and inexplicably lost contact with her on
Valentine's Day,
it raised alarm. Here's a picture of Loretta, if you're interested. She doesn't look that native to me. Those gray blue eyes, pale skin, brown hair, and yellow teeth. They don't really cry native, but that's besides the point. The point is this: 824 missing women in Canada all have one shocking thing in common. Yeah, and what might that be? Well, with Loretta Saunders as the poster child for this effort to make us all aware, according to this article, of 3,329 cases of missing or murdered Canadian women of varying ethnic backgrounds, mostly between 1990 and 2013, 24.8% of these women were of Aboriginal Canadian descent. And since Indigenous women account for just 2% of Canada's total population, this number has sparked a considerable public outcry. Surprise, surprise. Women have a bad time, everyone screams and yells. Men and children, they can fend for themselves. And that outcry made it all the way to Parliament. Here's a short video clip of that tomfoolery in action. But be warned, what you are about to see is Canadian politics in living color.
The Honourable Minister of National Justice is rising on a point of order.
Mr. Speaker, on a point of order, I'm wondering if I could get unanimous consent from members opposite an issue arising in question period today. I would like to table the 40 initiatives that we have taken as a government to address murdered and missing, the 40 reports that have now been completed in the last number of years, and the over 30 justice and public safety bills that relate specifically to violence against women and girls.
The minister may well know that as a minister he doesn't need unanimous consent to the House, as long as they're in both official languages and as long as they're here. So if they are, then he can table away. The Honourable Member for Winnipeg North is rising on a point of order.
Mr. Speaker, I see the Minister is busy on his desk looking for some possible papers to table. I'm wondering if, now that he's made the commitment to table the documents, when can we anticipate that they will in fact be tabled?
Mr. Justice.
5 minutes, Mr. Speaker.
It being Thursday. I'd just like to draw to the attention of the Minister of Justice the pages that are conveniently located in front of the chair. I'd like to point out to the Minister of Justice that there are several pages in the room at most times of the day, especially during question period, and rather than having to throw papers on the floor or walk across while the speaker's trying to move on, they'd be happy to help them out.
It was both funny and sad at the same time watching that. But as you can see, a woman in dire straits seems to turn the dog and pony show of Parliament into some kind of three-ring circus, if that makes any sense. So I looked up Government of Canada, and I found this website, canadiansmissing.ca. I'll put the link below. And I found this background 2011 Fast Fact sheet. And it seemed to be the most recent I could find in a quick search on data of missing people that included this convenient little chart. And if you look at the chart here, it basically has it divided by province, and the abductions or the missing people are divided by gender, male and female, but it's not divided by ethnicity. So we don't really know how many of these people were Aboriginal or how many people were white or whatever. And if you look at the chart here, here are the first column, abduction by stranger. If you go down, 21 are female, 25 female. If you go to accident, only 8 were female, while 62 were male. Very big difference. Wandered off, 372 women to 897 men. Again, that's a huge difference. And when we get to parental abduction, with or without custody, the numbers are very small and close to the same. But then we get into runaway, and what do we have? We have females 1,603, males 2,127. Unknown, female 4,989 to the males 6,797. And then finally other, whichever that, I don't know what that means, but other, 829 females to 1,319 males. So I think you can see that it's mostly men who have gone missing in every category, and the difference is quite huge in most of the categories. So here again, we see this bias where attention is paid to women, where in fact it's the men who are missing more often, and quite a bit more often in almost every category. Now, again, the issue that was coming up for this video was Aboriginal women specifically, and here we don't know how many of these women were Aboriginal and how many weren't. Neither do we know how many of the men were Aboriginal and how many weren't. But if you look at just the numbers of men to women, geez, if the Aboriginal women make up such a large percentage of the missing women, as I stated earlier, quoting from the earlier article, then it's probably safe to say that those numbers are relative to the men's population. So there's probably a lot of Aboriginal men missing as well when compared to their number, their populations, and to the number of missing men. So then I went over to the Royal Canadian Mounted Police website and looked up them serving Canada's Aboriginal people. Let's see what's being done. Now I went down to issues and I found here, missing and murdered Aboriginal persons. Now this is the issue from the beginning of this video that we're talking about, Aboriginal people going missing, but specifically the women. So when I clicked on here, this is what came up. Missing and murdered Aboriginal persons. Background. It says, the RCMP investigates all cases of missing and murdered persons within our jurisdiction, regardless of sex, ethnicity, background, or lifestyle. Now remember that. Accordingly, resources and investigational tools are assigned solely by the circumstances of each case. Then they go on to say, there is a need, however, to address the fact that Aboriginal women face considerably higher risks of violence and homicide. So even though they said regardless of sex, the attention definitely goes to women. Aboriginal women. And it also says that Aboriginal women are 3 times more likely to experience violent victimization than non-Aboriginal women, and in addition, they are significantly overrepresented as victims of homicide. Now, I really don't know how true that is because I showed you the chart from 2011, which is what, 2 years after this statistic they're quoting. And actually, it was men that disappeared a lot more than the women. And that was of all ethnicity. And again, yes, women that are Aboriginal, because of their small numbers, they're overrepresented when it comes to violence, homicide, and missing peoples. But again, it probably is safe to assume that Aboriginal men are at the same risk. Okay, so what are they doing about it? Well, if we go down, oh, they're making a missing women task force. Excellent. Where's the missing men task force? Well, they've got a Native Women's Association of Canada. Men? No. I see no men. So I guess that's what they're doing about it. Alright, okay, so it seems that the government of Canada is ignoring, and the RCMP are ignoring Aboriginal men, but there's got to be some information on missing Aboriginal men. So let's find it here. So we go missing Aboriginal men, Canada. And what do we get?
Oh.
Well, I guess if you're an Aboriginal man in Canada, what does that make you? I guess you don't exist.
Living in death's shadow, pull down the blinds. No one dares to talk. Fear rules their minds.
Where have they gone? The disappeared. The disappeared. Where have they all gone? The disappeared.